Luxurious Heat Nation. Yeah. Murcielago. Down to Biscayne.
Yay. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds.
Down to Biscayne.
Kept the flow playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, Inspire have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Welcome to this NBA Draft edition, NBA Draft 2025 edition of 5 on the Floor. I am your host, Greg Sylvander. Tonight's floor plan with me, draft expert and extraordinaire, Digital Adel. We are going to quickly react to the Miami Heat's pick at number 20. I have some backstory on kind of what transpired here that I wanted to go over. So we're going to get to that. As well as just reaction and also talk about the kids' game. So before we do that, though, I'm going to shout out Off the Floor. It is off the chain right now in all of the different channels, particularly the draft channel. We're talking Miami Heat draft picks, trades, free agency. There's analysis. We're getting stage shows going for the summer. $2.99 a month. This is where you're going to get your information first. You will learn about Kasparas Jakucionis much sooner than you will anywhere else. Come to Off the Floor, the most Miami Heat anywhere. All right. So this was an interesting situation, Adele. The Miami Heat went into this draft, I think, based off of who we saw that they worked out and who they were connected to. There were a lot of prospects that we talked about, and I'll outline a few just to kind of give some, I'll set the stage. Walter Clayton Jr. was a name that we talked about too much, it felt like. Jace Richardson came up. Liam McNeely came up. Will Riley came up. Jace Richardson, did I say him already? Danny Wolf came up. Rasheer Fleming came up. There is something about the NBA draft, Adele, where you never know what the hell's going to happen. And this has happened with the Heat before. Caron Butler fell all the way to pick 10 back in the 02 draft, if I'm remembering that correctly. And that was like a home run for Miami because they felt like they got a player that fell due to medicals and other concerns, and they loved Caron from the jump. Justice Winslow was another example of a guy who slipped much further than they expected. He had a lot of really bad workouts, and ultimately that didn't work out as well as they would have liked. But this was a different scenario. So as this played out, Adele, and we watched all the picks, there were some ones that went in the teens that no one expected. And all of a sudden, the Heat got in a position as they were 2 or 3 picks away from the Heat's pick, where there were plenty of guys that we had been talking about for the pick available. And all of a sudden, at 20, Kasparas Jakucionis out of Illinois. I think he's from Lithuania. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right.
So he is basically a combo guard out of Illinois. Go check his highlights. I'll give you my initial reaction, and then you're going to get like real basketball analysis from Adele. I had a league's source, a scout in the league, message me tonight, like literally 12 minutes ago, and said Jakucionis is a home run. His upside is a better Bogdan Bogdanovic. I thought that was an interesting name to throw out there. I love his court vision. I love his craftiness around the basket. I think he's a great passer and facilitator from what I've seen. And there's just, at 20, there was no downside in taking a shot on a player that most people had in the top 12 and definitely in the lottery. So Adel, tell the people more about Kasparas Jakučionis from a basketball perspective. And just, I know that this was a player, as we did our draft series, you loved him from jump. So I know you like the pick. Tell us why.
Yeah, absolutely. I've identified Kasparas Jakučionis very early in the process as one of the top basketball players to come out in this class. I had him 8th on my big board. And a lot of that was due to it's very difficult for a freshman in college basketball to produce triple doubles and do it almost consistently. Now, he wasn't actually doing triple doubles. They were like 20 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assist games. He had a ton of those in the beginning of the season. And then he kind of fell off due to the load. Like he had a 26% usage rate, which is in the 75th percentile in all of college basketball. So they put a lot on his shoulders, a lot on his terms of his facilitation, shot creation. He was a lot of the entire engine of that offense for most of the season. Now, what intrigues me most, he's 6'5" with a 7'8" wingspan, 205 pounds, and he has one of the highest assist percentages in all of college basketball. He's in the 97th percentile. He does a lot of that creating off the dribble as well. Very crafty around the basket, like you mentioned earlier. Against top 50 schools, he shot 68% in the paint. He was able to shoot 50% from the corner, left corner from 3, 75% from the right corner, and 57% at the top of the key from 3. So he gives you that ability to stretch the floor. He can do a lot of that in late clock as well. So when the shot clock's running down, he can create his own shot, get people involved. One of the knocks on him, though, that caused him to fall were the turnovers. But I think a lot of that was the way the offense was structured. He literally had to make all the decisions. And just for a young player, you can get into some of those habits of the coverage dictates I should go here. Instead of looking, I just pass it. So a lot of his turnovers came off of not being careful in terms of double checking his reads or, playing off of live coverage as opposed to what the drill says you should do. But he's got elite attributes to go with this as well. But I know you got something you want to get in, so we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Yeah. So just a few things, and you may have touched on some of this, so I apologize. I'm looking at, honestly, we're doing this as the draft is happening. So I'm like looking at my phone, making sure nothing's happening. So bear with us here for our podcast audience, audio only. So if you did any of this already, Adel, I apologize. But just as far as some of the basics on Kasparas Jakučionis, he's 6'6".
Yes.
He has a 6'8" wingspan.
Yes. 6'7" and like 7/5 or 3/4. Sorry.
Got it. 205 pounds. He is 19 years old. So this is a player that the Miami Heat are showing that they're willing to take a player that, although I think can contribute maybe sooner than a lot of players that we had been talking about, just based off of his basketball IQ from what I've seen. He's also super young. So there's going to be a huge learning curve.
But he's got an NBA body.
Yeah. To that point, like he's got the ability to grow into that body. And I think that the Heat strength and conditioning program, you've seen what they've done with so many different players. So think how they could sculpt a guy like this. So I'm super intrigued by the pick. As far as just to give some backstory leading up to the pick from the Heat's perspective and what I was chasing, Walter Clayton Jr. was really, really loud as this was unfolding. I was letting a lot of people know throughout the network that like that was feeling like the pick. And oddly enough, Utah traded up with the Washington Wizards, if I remember correctly, all the way up to 18 to get 2 picks ahead of Miami. I think that was strategic by Danny Ainge to get Walter Clayton Jr. So I don't want to discount that. I believe he was a player that Miami really did like. I also think Nolan Traore, if I'm saying that correctly, Traore. I also think he's a guy Miami really liked a lot, but again, went ahead of Miami's pick. And the Heat did not work out Kasparas Jakučionis because Kasparas Jakučionis would have never in a million years accepted a workout from a team that was picking in the 20s. He was, so I'm just to give people a little more perspective on like his, like you go on Tankathon and he was ranked 11th. If you go on the Ringer, he was a lottery pick, if I remember correctly, in the mock draft that they had there. So just he was kind of a consensus lottery pick, and so for him to fall there, I think it's exciting for Miami to get a player at a position of need with skill sets that complement. And I'm interested for you to keep me honest here, your perspective. I think that there's ways that he can play with Davion Mitchell, provided he comes back. And also he can probably spend time on the floor with Tyler Hero. Am I crazy to say that he's kind of like a great option as a combo guard off the bench, maybe in his initial role with the team?
Yeah, he can do a little bit of all that because he's not a small guard. The fact that he's 6'5" without shoes, 6'6" with shoes, 6'8" wingspan, his hands are big too. It's not like he has small hands. So he finishes really well around the rim. He doesn't have to be on ball. He can be that off ball cutter. He can spot up, shoot threes. And defensively, he's going to be a better defender than Tyler Hero because he's already got those tools. And that's not just off ball, but that's on ball also.
Yeah, and that's huge. So for them to find a guy that fits with the backcourt players that are in place now, that has potential, and I think has high potential, like the upside play here is big. And I think that's a breath of fresh air, because truthfully, as much as I thought Jaime Jaquez had a great rookie year, and I also think he could bounce back from a sophomore slump season. We've seen guys do that. He kind of came in as a known commodity that had a degree of a ceiling. And I think that the ceiling is much higher for a player like Kasparas. We got to get a nickname for him. Is it going to become Casper? Does he have a nickname? Let's get to Adel. Do you know that?
I don't know that, but I've been calling him Casp.
Casp. Okay. Yeah. We're going to talk more about Casp in a minute. Before we do, want to shout out the daily fantasy sponsor of 5 Reasons Sports Network, and that's Prize Picks. That's where you choose more or less on your favorite players, favorite statistics, and it's daily fantasy simplified. Play 3, 4, 5 flex plays. You could do 2 pick power plays if you want to be a little safer with it, but you got to use the code 5. That's going to get you $50 instantly when you play your first $5. Prize Picks, the official daily fantasy sponsor of 5 on the Floor and the 5 Reasons Sports Network. So, a couple things before we close, because the draft the first round is continuing now, and we'll see what else becomes of it. I do want to mention that when Walter Clayton Jr. got picked and Nolan
Troy
got picked, I did get indications that Miami did look hard at moving the pick, but I think they ultimately landed on the upside. And this is this last part here is speculation on my part. Adele, I think it's a situation where the pick had value because of who had dropped. And so they probably entertained offers to see what they could get. And that was the indication that I got leading up to the pick. And then they decided, you know what, this upside play is too good to pass up on. It was quickly reported by, I think, Jake Fisher that they intended to keep the pick. That was the indication that I think all of us got as well. So welcome to Miami, Kasparas Jakučionis. Adele, if there was anything else in the first round that you might want to see from Miami, is it reasonable to think that anything else could pop off? As we're recording this, we are at the 24th pick, so there's just a few left here. I think the Heat are done tonight. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the Heat are done tonight as well. I mean, because you can't really trade into the second round for just cash anymore, or you're going to hard cap yourself. So I can't see them doing that. I didn't really get to see the board because we're doing this of how it fell, but I think I saw Asa Newell just went, Neat Clifford just went.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of the backup big type guys. Well, Asa Newell, great value at 24 for the New Orleans Pelicans. But for Miami, I think they need a backup big when they get to round out the offseason, whether they somehow trade and get a second round pick, like a guy like Joan Behringer, if he's still there, or there's some other guys that we could talk about a little bit later on, like Maxim Reynaud and guys like that. But they need a backup big to round out this roster. So, I mean, that move's got to come at some point. Could they trade and make that happen? Maybe. But that's where I think they need to go next.
I'm with you there. I am reluctant to overpromise to our listeners that that'll happen via the draft, but I think it is definitely something for us to watch. They worked out a lot of second round to undrafted guys. So if there's somebody they really, really like, who knows? Maybe they try to trade into the second round. We'll find out more about that tomorrow. To your point, I don't think we'll see much else from the Heat as we're posting this. The draft will probably be concluding, but I would say, and Shams Charania came on ESPN as we were recording this and reemphasized that Jonathan Kuminga is a target for Miami in restricted free agency. So we'll continue to monitor that, but this really we wanted to make this all about the 2025 draft and the pick of Illinois' Kasparas Jakučionis. Welcome to Miami. I think it was one of the more consensus positive moments for Heat fans across all social media channels, as well as our Off the Floor Discord server and on Playback. So a good night for Heat fans. Adel, thank you for breaking down Casp's game, and we will have you covered for the rest of the draft as well as free agency. So check out, make sure you're checking for all of the pods coming shortly. Peace.